So welcome everyone. My name is Mira Vasic and I'm happy to welcome you to my LinkedIn Live about the Unwritten Rules. And today I have a very special guest. Today is with me Dominyka Venciūtė. Dominyka is an expert on personal branding. She's a founder and consultant at her own company, Persona Cognita. So Dominyka, welcome today.
Thank you, Mira. Super nice to be here.
Thank you so much. It's a really pleasure to have you today here. And I see first comments coming in. So people say someone is joining from India, Jurha is joining from Vilnius, Ekaterina from Vilnius, Deimante, Klaipėda, Lithuania. So very welcome, everyone. Today we'll be talking with Dominyka about the 3 top unwritten rules in personal branding. That will be the biggest part of our LinkedIn Live. After that, we'll be answering all of your questions and comments that you can put right away in the chat. And at the end, I'm going to share the gender diversity number of the week with you. So Dominyka, I suggest really to dive directly into what we have to tell today. So can you please tell us what are these top 3 unwritten rules in personal branding nowadays?
Sure. So the first thing is that people still think that personal branding is something optional. That is no longer true. Personal branding is not optional. It's rather an obligatory thing. And we will go into some details on that a little bit later. The second thing is that without content, it is very difficult to strengthen your personal brand. So content basically is one of the most essential elements when building your personal brand. And finally, the third thing that I wanted to emphasize today is that it is usually more difficult for women to strengthen their personal brands. They need more efforts to do that. And we will explain why a little bit later. So these would be the 3 things we are going to discuss today.
Thank you, Dominyka. I'm really happy that you are today with me, that we can together discuss this topic. So what do you say about the first one? What is the reason why you are saying that personal branding is no longer an option? Because indeed, that is something what most of the people still think. They think, well, it's something that they have to do apart. I really need to dedicate a lot of time to that. So maybe I should not choose for that. So why do you are saying it is obligatory, actually?
Mm-hmm. Well, in the beginning, I would like to kind of clarify what is personal branding in the first place, because even though it is a concept that we use very often nowadays and is a very popular topic in the conferences, in various events, but sometimes we get confused about the meaning. So in simple words, the very basic definition, how can we describe personal branding, is that a personal brand is simply a gut feeling that other people might have about us. In the same way, we have that gut feeling or opinion about other people as well. And this definition basically shows that every person has a personal brand. But the question is that personal branding strong or not really strong? So even though the official term personal branding first appeared in 1997, and it was first mentioned by Tom Peters in a Fast Company magazine, the concept is actually a lot older. If we think back hundreds years back, people would go to marketplaces and they would go and buy goods from people who they knew had good reputation, who they knew made quality things. But nobody considered that as a personal branding, right? Today, we live in the era of digital technologies, and a lot of decisions are made online. Recruiters, HR specialists, they seek people, they find people online in many cases, right? So basically, like, all these changing conditions show that the way we present ourselves, and especially the way we present ourselves in a digital world, matters a lot. So it is only up to us whether we do nothing, whether we just, come, take as it comes, or we actually put effort. So my thought is that, it's only up to us to decide. But if we want to succeed, if we want to achieve our goals, if we want to have great careers, if we want clients, if we want talents to attract them to our organizations, we have to work on our personal brands. It's no longer an option. It is something we have to do. And sometimes we do it without even noticing it. What do you think, Mira?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. What I see in practice is that many people, and especially people with what I call preferred feminine working style, think, well, I'm just gonna go to my work, I'm gonna do my very, very best, I'm gonna bring the best knowledge, and everyone will notice it. But those same people quite often get a feedback that they should be more visible, that their expertise should be more visible, what they are doing, what they are good at, and what they have achieved. So do you have some practical tips, Dominyka, about how can people be more visible, and moreover, how can their expertise be more visible to everyone?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Of course. And of course, personal branding is a rather complex phenomenon. So it's not something we can, we can't strengthen our personal brands overnight. It's quite a process. It's quite a long process. And I believe we should all start by understanding what are our goals in the first place. Are our goals related to our career, or perhaps our goals are related to our business success or our business visibility, or perhaps, we want to achieve other things in life. Once we understand our goal, we have to understand who our target audience is and in what people's eyes we want to strengthen our personal brand. Because once we decide that, our content might, depend on that, and we will do certain things differently than others. So once we know these two things, it is important to understand ourselves. So I usually invite people to do some sort of a self-assessment analysis. Who am I? Especially from a professional sense, if the goals are related to the career or business stuff. What professional am I? What are my values? What are my competencies? What is my personal and professional story? Once I have these things in line, then I can think about how I can show these things on my channels, and channels might be different as well. When I talk about channels, of course, today, social media is extremely important, especially such channels as LinkedIn. But when we talk about channels, we shouldn't forget the offline channels as well. How can I differentiate, and how can I show my values? How can I show my personality in offline meetings? How can I strengthen my personal brand in front of partners that I cooperate daily in the context of my organization? Perhaps I can do some signature meetings, or perhaps I can send signature newsletters or something like that. When it comes to online world, once I define myself, once I understand what I want to showcase, what I want to emphasize from who I am and what my values are, the social media hygiene has to be done. You have to update your social media profiles accordingly. Your social media profiles, especially your LinkedIn profile, has to easily tell your audience who you are and how can you be of value to them. So you see, it's very much related to the first two things that were goals and target audience. So we start with these strategic things, and then we move to the details. So basically, start with self-assessment. Start with understanding your own situation, and then update your profiles accordingly, and think of other channels where you can differentiate, where you can emphasize who you are, et cetera, et cetera. So these are some of the very basic things, but they're important, because if you're gonna start sharing content right away, and then people are going to visit your social media profiles, and the information on your social media profiles is not going to be updated, they might not get a full picture of who you are. So we start with the very basic things, and then we move to more complicated and complex things that actually bring a lot of value to us as well. So here are just a couple of things. Of course, it's a very broad topic and we could talk for hours on what to do.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed, of course. Thank you for sharing these practical tips that people can actually try out. And then you mentioned creating content. So then we come to our second unwritten rule for the day. Can you tell us more about that? What does it mean and why it is important?
Of course. So content is an essential element in personal branding when we want to strengthen our personal brand. So even though the hygiene on social media profiles and the way we present ourselves, the way we dress, the way we speak matters, content also matters a lot. And content is actually one of those most powerful weapons that we can use in order to be more visible. So when it comes to content, it is first very important to understand why and for what reasons we want to be known for. What are those key areas? What are those key topics we want other people to connect with us? For example, Mira, if I see your post on LinkedIn, or if I hear your name, or if your picture appears somewhere in my social media field, I immediately think of women leadership. I immediately think of gender diversity. I immediately think of women empowerment because you share that kind of content consistently and you're active. So you are the first person that would come to my mind if somebody asked me if I can recommend an expert on female leadership, So, and that happens because I see your content, So that's a very kind of like simple example of how, content can take part in building a personal brand. So once we understand and once we choose those directions we want to be known for, we can think, in more depth. We can think about the details. With which topics can I, reveal those key areas that I want to be known for? For example, if I wanted to be known for sustainability, perhaps, I would talk about different cases from different, company examples from different countries, how various organizations are contributing to their sustainability initiatives. I would probably talk about my own experience in sustainability. I would also probably interview people who are dealing with sustainability matters. It's not my topic today, but if I chose that, probably, I would think strategically, what would be the key topics under the big sustainability block that I want to be known for?
Yeah, great. Yeah, and there's a question from audience which you can use as well to respond. So Deimante asks, what type of content should I create and share in LinkedIn if I'm a legal specialist? Mm-hmm. So what do you think, Dominyka? Do you have some suggestion for Deimante?
If Deimante can specify which legal area she is mostly focusing on, perhaps that would help, because of course legal matters are a very broad topic, and probably you don't want to take all the different aspects of legal. So I guess if you have one direction in legal matters where you want to focus, or what your job is about, so I would probably go deeper into that topic. For example, if it's about, I don't know, intellectual property law, or like legal matters about intellectual property, I would probably focus my content on that. That would be my one building block of my content strategy. But perhaps next to legal matters, there are other key areas that you're passionate about and that are somehow connected with your key activity. For example, if you're leading a team of legal specialists, perhaps like another topic you want to talk is leadership and legal.
Great example,
Yeah, so I guess, it very much depends on, your passions in the professional sense. But first of all, focus on the kind of like niche area that you're focusing on in this legal world. So that is probably the main idea that I would like to emphasize. But also one tip for everyone who's listening, and probably for Deimante as well, sometimes it is very difficult for ourselves to understand what are those key areas we are known for in other people's eyes. So sometimes I advise people who take my trainings or whom I consult to do a very simple questionnaire to ask people around them, colleagues, friends, family members, like some very simple questions. And the first question usually is, ask other people, if you wrote a book about something one day, what do they think that book would be about? And that's usually like, it might be a very good indication what they perceive you as, what kind of topics, they relate to you. Ask them if you were to create content on social media every day, what topics they imagine you speaking about. You might get some very interesting observations, how they perceive you today. And, sometimes you will see that they're not, it's not really in line with what you want, but it will give you an indication that they perceive you that way because probably you do something that way. Perhaps, perhaps on social media, you share your travel photos all the time because, it's your hobby and perhaps you only take pictures while traveling. But for them, because they only see that kind of content, it probably means that, you're very passionate about traveling. Perhaps you wanted to work in that industry and so on. So you will be surprised by people's answers. So I highly recommend this simple task.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dominyka. There was Edwin who kindly asked, using weapons, is there another word? And yeah, tools, of course. These are the tools that we can use. So Edwin, thank you so much. Probably nicer word to use is tools. And getting back to this one, what I find really important is that most of the people, and now we see example of Demand as well, focusing on the knowledge, technical type of content, which is your basic and your key starting point. But there is quite a lot more about it than only content. And that is celebrating your successes, celebrating successes of your own team, for example, telling the story and how was your journey of becoming that expert. I think no one cares what Mark does nowadays, but everyone would really like to see the pictures of him starting Facebook, and all those passes that he had. So that is quite an inspiration. So indeed, for Demand and all other people with same doubt, think about what already happened in your path, in your career, and in your journey, and each step is also content to share.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, there's some yes, Dominyka, yes, please.
One idea that I wanted to share. When I started talking about personal branding around 3 years ago, I had the competitive advantage in Lithuanian context. I mean, it's a small market, but I had a competitive advantage because there were barely any other people talking about this topic. So one idea of how you can actually become known or to become more visible is to start talking about a topic that no one yet talks about. And of course, as the time goes, you will see more and more people talking about the same things, but you might be the first one. I'm not saying that I was the first one, but I was one of the first people to start talking about it. And that's why a lot of people relate me today with personal branding. So perhaps, I'm thinking about Deimante's question again, and perhaps there is a topic that where you can merge two different disciplines, and that could be your unique type of content that you're going to share. Let's say legal things, and then I'm not sure if anybody in Lithuania talks a lot about women leadership and legal matters. Just random idea, but perhaps this could be your edge, your content edge that nobody does yet.
Excellent example, Dominyka. Thank you for these tips. Edwin also says thanks. There was a Sherry that said that she invested a lot she said, I worked hard on my personal brand to differentiate myself and my style. It took some time to get there. So maybe we can comment briefly on that one. So people who see you now, Dominyka, they know that you are an expert in personal branding. That's why you're here today with us. You are influencing thousands of hundreds of people every day on social media and educate them on this thing. But what you said, it was only 3 years ago that you started doing that. So it takes time, right?
Definitely. It does. There is no overnight success in this field in personal branding, unless you want to get involved in some scandal, but I'm not sure if it's going to have positive consequences. But yeah, it's a journey. But if you're going to choose the edge of your communication that nobody yet talks about, it might be faster. So think creatively in this case.
Great. Thank you so much, Dominyka. And now I suggest to go to the third unwritten rule. And what we said in the invite, and that was on purpose, we said that women need to take extra care when they form their personal brand. But what we actually want to say, and that is what I'm going to say, that is that all people who are seen as women by other people should take extra care. So you spoke in the beginning, you said that personal branding is about how other people see us. So no matter what our gender identity is, as soon as we are seen as a woman or people with feminine preferred working style, something happens. And that is the unconscious gender bias. That means that people are expecting from us to behave in certain patterns. And you also mentioned it at some point, it is up to us at the end to choose whether we will follow it or no. So what happens is if people see us as women or see us as people with preferred feminine working style, then they expect from us that we come across both as assertive, taking the initiative, sharp, straight to the point, but also to be very kind and very nice. The choice is only up to you or up to us. But let's say that people decide to play that game and to leverage both being assertive from one side and showing typically masculine features and being kind, nice, reflective, communicative on the other side. Do you have some tips, Dominyka? How can people leverage these two things in their personal branding?
Yeah, I think it's an art, probably, and I think a lot of these things depend on the person's, personality, and the art of how he can do that in personal branding, or she can do that in personal branding. So what I would do in this case, if I wanted to show both sides, if I wanted to be assertive in the eyes of others, but at the same time if I wanted to show kindness and that feminine energy as well, I would probably try to do a table with two blocks. On one hand, I would write confidence, assertiveness. On the other block, I would write kindness and feminine energy or something like that. And then I would try to think about the situations of when I was assertive or when I was confident, and on the other hand, when it was more about the kindness part. And based on that, I would try to think of how I can actually show that on social media and how I can merge these two things. And perhaps there is no need to show like two things separately, how I can be authentic, both by being confident and assertive, and at the same time being who I am, a woman in this case. So I believe it takes time to master your personal communication as a leader, as a woman leader, and at the same time, being that example in terms of assertiveness, etc. So I guess it takes time, but everything comes with practice. Perhaps, Mira, you have more ideas on that.
Yeah. There is also Sherry that says this is exactly why it took so long. She says, I work in a tough and emotional industry, but wanted to come across as strong, but approachable. It's a balance. And indeed, Sherry, yes. And what I said, it goes beyond women. It is for all people. It is also for men who prefer to have more of a feminine working style. So more of a reflection, connecting with talking, communication. It is both as well for them. And at the end of the day, what I said, it is a matter of choice. People also don't have to do it. And I like what you said, Dominyka, about being first. Well, there are a lot of people who made their strong brand by not satisfying big masses of people, but really staying authentic and following really out of the box and out of the pattern. So I think you agree with me, that is also always an option.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely. And my philosophy, like when it comes to personal branding, is that, you know, we shouldn't try to become famous. We shouldn't try to have, you know, massive following. Well, unless that's our goal. But if we just want to have a strong personal brand, we have to think about why we want to be known. What are those key competencies or the key values that we have? And how do we make a difference in the world, in our organization, in front of other people, and focus on that. And, you know, the following will come. And it doesn't matter if you're going to have like 100 sincere people that will appreciate your content, or you're gonna have 20,000. So it doesn't really matter as long as there are people who can help you to build that, you know, reputation and authority.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dominyka, for this last comments. We still have a couple of minutes, so I would like to read the question that we got also. It came to my inbox, so thank you for that. And that was Barbara. Barbara asked, she said, personal branding looks like takes a lot of time and it's a lot of work. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. It depends on what you perceive as a lot and what you perceive as not that much time. So I guess it takes a lot of time in the beginning, initially, to kind of understand, what do I want to do with my personal brand? So the self-assessment, perhaps asking people around you how they perceive you, trying to put your personal branding strategy together so you have it for yourself and you don't forget the key areas of topics, the keywords with which you want to describe yourself in various social media platforms and beyond. So I guess that initial effort takes some time. And then if you have a clearly defined strategy and an action plan, it's, in my opinion, it's not going to take that much time on a weekly basis, let's say. So if you're going to tell yourself, okay, you know, in order to achieve my goals, in order to be visible in front of these and these people, and to kind of, you know, get to this conference or there and there, I have to do these and these steps. And if I know those steps pretty clearly, if I focus on them, I believe it's, you know, it's not going to take days and not even hours, you know. And when it comes to content creation, a lot of people think that it also takes a lot of time, and it does in the beginning when you don't have experience, but it becomes easier and easier with practice. So once you start creating content, you're actually starting this sort of game, which you eventually will enjoy. Most probably you will enjoy it, and you will very much enjoy it once you see the audience reacting to your content, and they will show you that they appreciate it. So I guess, you know, it's a question of what is a lot, but I would say, you know, dedicating an hour a week or 2 hours a week, it's totally enough for, you know, personal branding efforts, if you have that strategy outlined in the first place.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for putting a number there. I think that's really important for many people to know. Thank you so much, Dominyka. Before closing, there is only one last question, and then I'm going to share with you the number of the week. So Sherry asks, do you recommend changing your social banners often? And if yes, how often?
If there are no certain occasions that you want to emphasize on your social media banners, then I would say don't change it that often. But for example, if you have a workshop coming up that you're hosting and it's going to happen in 2 months and you want to start showing people that social banner and sharing that information, so then I would change it for those 2 months and then I would go back to my usual one. So that would be one case. If I change my occupation, if I go to work for another company, then I would change my social banner again. But normally I would say it's not necessary to change it that often, because it can also strengthen your personal brand in a way that you're probably going to have certain keywords about yourself, about what you do, about the value you create, about your organization on that social banner. So you want people to memorize it. And if they come across your profile the second time, they will think, aha, I saw this before and I already know this person. So, I would only say change it when the occasion comes.
Thank you so much for your answer. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dominyka. Thank you. You are welcome. It was really a pleasure to have you. Thank you all in the audience. I would like to share the number of the week when it comes to the gender diversity. And the number of the week, it's going to be 25. I'm going to write it down here on the board. This one? Yes. So 25, that is the percent of women who hold top positions in health sector. And I guess that a lot of you know that that is a sector where more than 75% of people are women who work there. So I would like to finish with this number, 25%. Thank you all. Thank you, Dominyka. And I'm going to see you again soon on the same place. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.